about 12, 13 years, you know. But now he's out and doing the work, man, doing the work. So, you know, I'm
So
proud of him.
that leadership dynamic, that's what, you know, that leadership dynamic is what it is,
and
a key
that's like
component.
a perfect
So, yeah.
segue to what we're gonna be talking about around gang membership. What is a gang? How gangs came about. My name is Alonzo Harvey. Uh, Pillars of the community. Um, Student here at Berkley. Transfer student from City College. So shout out to the City College folks that's up in here too. Keep it going. Um, yeah, we finna get here and have a real conversation. It's finna be real. We hope to hear from the audience too. You know, like Brother Tariq has spoke up on some things. I want Flacco to speak up on some things, if possible. We just need feedback because you know there's some real important people in here, and I feel like this is a perfect time to hear other voices, and not just me and Brother James. You know, if you guys have input or you guys have can educate us on some things that we need to hear, like Brother Tariq just did. Feel free to do so. Throw a question in the chat, and we'll try to get to it. And even if you can help, you know, raise your hand or whatever. Um,
Right on. Thank you, Alonzo. My name is James Wiley Jr. I'm the founder and president of an organization called Real Teams. Born and raised right here in Southeast San Diego. And my background is youth. I've been working with youth for about 20 years now. And I just, you know, just see how um, the gang life has affected a lot of youth in our community, even, you know, family members and things like that. So it's always been my goal to try to redirect them, you know, because a lot of times they just being young-minded, and a lot of times the reasons for joining gangs or whatever the case is. And I know at the end of the day, they're just looking for love and you know, respect and care to be a part of a family. But what I've witnessed over the years is a lot of youth giving up their freedom to be a part of these gangs, or and a lot of times end up losing their lives because they got caught up in, you know, different situations. So it's been my goal to try to create safe spaces for the youth in our community, to let them know that they can um, that you can be from your neighborhood, but you don't have to fall into like just different traps. And so that's kind of where I come from, just working with youth for so long and just seeing so much happen, and just trying to divert them from just self-defeating lifestyles. So
so what how me and James came about was it was a post. It started off with a song, and James had made. We already had a conversation. We did a Facebook Live at our Pillars, but it stemmed from a song. I think was it one of the what was the song?
uh, uh, Ryan Anthony, the Dago 2.
Right.
Dago 2, yep.
So James had made a comment like, you know, glorifying gang culture, right? And we also, you know, we have often have this idea on what a gang member is, right? A negative thought on what a gang member is. So when that song that came on, there were certain lyrics and certain things that had been said. And recently, once that video was shot, it was a young lady that community knew that had died from gang violence. So it just stemmed from me and him having a conversation about what it is to be a gang member, the culture around gangs, the rhetoric, why even have gangs? Can gang members even exist in the community? Because we right now I see there's a big buzz, there's a big push going on with gangs around the country. You have restorative justice, and I feel like a lot of that restorative justice now to me is going to gang members. If you look at bills that are trying to get passed from the opposition and even the people that are for it, from all the way across the country, for some reason, why are we talking about gangs? We talked about the violence. We all understand that there is violence within gangs, and like Brother Tariq was saying earlier, the gangs did not start from there. Let me ask somebody who's coming in. Gangs didn't start with being inherently violent, and we know how that starts, right? Poverty, right? Soon as poverty comes, we know violence comes because people's backs are against the wall. So things get lost along the way. So me and James just continue to have this conversation about, how do we as a community stop that violence, right? He has a teen center that he does, just takes kids out, right? Does field trips. He wants his idea of stopping the gang is at an early age. And what I'm doing on my end is also trying to get the folks that are already in it, that are gonna be in it, and build that gap, right? Bring that gap. And how do we get those both understandings, right? Folks that aren't in it, organizations that are trying to get folks to stop that do not join gangs, and organizations that already are involved with gang membership. So that's like the conversations that we have. So, you know, this is just, I don't know, we just gonna freestyle the conversation. Like I said, I've been to so many of the conferences, I kind of don't even really know, you know, what to touch on as much.
Well, I think earlier when we had the conversation, you brought up some really good points about just the lack of resources and the lack of opportunity. And you know, because of that, we do see a lot of, especially the younger generation. And when I say younger generation, I'm talking about like high school kids, the ones who are able to start working at the early age. But even as, well, to finish our thought, so there's a lack of resources and opportunity. He mentioned if a kid had a job, he wouldn't have time to go pick up a gun or go rob somebody. He wouldn't have a need to, right? Because he's working. But just within the culture, I work on a lot of campuses right here in Southeast, you know, Knox Middle School, Millennial Tech, Lincoln. I'm at a lot of different schools, and as early as middle school, the idea of gangs for a lot of these kids is, it's just a glorifying of, you know, I'm from this set, and if you're from another set, I don't like you. And you know what I mean? And social media has taken it to just a totally different level. But one of the things we kind of touched on is the lack of opportunities and the lack of resources in our community. Excuse me. And if our kids had access to a lot of these different opportunities and resources, then a lot of their lives would be different right now. So if you want to touch on that, Alonzo, or anyone, if you have anything to add to that, feel free to jump in.
Alonzo, I'd like to ask you, if you don't mind. Are you there, Alonzo?
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay, so you know, because I want to step back a little bit, because, you know, I remember when I first was connecting with, you know, pillars of the community and coming to really understand how different, you know, the term gang can be defined so differently in so many ways. And I think I first connected with you and your brother Aaron through the 182.5 issue. And I think, you know, can you talk to, you know, that certainly in some gangs there's a criminal element, but actually the term gang can really be a much broader term of just friends who associate and know each other and from the same neighborhood and the same school. And, you know, not everyone who feels connected to a gang is necessarily someone who's involved in criminal activity. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, well, I think, and honestly, I think, yeah. So like, no one, I don't think no one wakes up in the morning and say they want to be violent, right? Kids don't wake up in the morning and say, "Hey, I want to join a gang to be violent," right? There's various reasons on why gangs are even formed. Most when we're talking about the generation now, they wake up to that. That's in their families. That's in their lives. That's in their schools. We were having a conversation earlier about Lincoln High School being there since the 50s. So the creation of gangs came from the community, right? It was a need for the community for whatever reason. They needed it for that reason, and I think a lot of positivity comes out of gangs. It's a brotherhood, right? It's you have different roles in gangs that are, you know, that are like, I don't know, like teachers, I guess, so to speak. Like, but there's, how do I say it? Like, I'm stumbling. I'm stumbling. I'm sorry about that. I'm stumbling right now.
No,
And you don't need to stumble. I mean, if I can just talk about, there was an earlier session that I listened to of a Professor David Pyrus, and he was talking about something so profound. He was looking at sociologists. He was quoting them from the early 1900s, where they were talking, where gangs did not have a negative connotation at all. And they were saying, sociologists were saying that was a normal part of male childhood, to form an association with other young men, and they called them gangs. And that connotation there were no negative connotations. It was a normal part of childhood. It's the way the outside society looks at and has criminalized, has tried to reframe how we think about gangs as being something negative and criminal, even though, again, forming that brotherhood is a normal part of growing up.
And I agree with everything you just said, because that's what we all look for, whether that's through sports or, you know what I mean, just hanging out on the block with your friends. Like, you guys, that's your crew. It's just so unfortunate that the culture behind gangs now, or what they call gangs now, especially like, for instance, hip hop music, you know what I mean? And what a lot of these younger kids are hearing in the hip hop and hearing in the lyrics and seeing in the videos, you know, with the visuals of the guns, and you know what I mean? And so my biggest thing is, how can we as a community start to change it ourselves and not wait for someone from the outside to come and try to change it for us? How do we take self-responsibility for the stuff that we're putting out? You know, are we changing what gang culture is to bring it back to just something that's positive, or are we further pushing it down a negative hole by the type of music that we put out and the type of images that we put out? And because the youth now, they live, hip hop has always formed our culture in a lot of ways. They've always shaped our culture. Like the dances that you do, you see it from a hip hop video first. So, you know what I mean? A lot of the terminology that you hear it a lot of times in the hip hop videos. And a lot of these youth, they feed off of that. You know what I mean? Like, they go to school saying these lyrics and, you know, thinking that, oh, it's okay to carry a gun. You know what I mean? Like, just a lot of the little stuff that they're just so young and so impressionable, and their brains hasn't got to that stage where they can really think through the images that they're seeing. So, and a lot of times they end up getting caught up in it, and kids lose their lives, kids end up going to jail, you know what I mean? So that's where I come in, and I'm trying to that's why that post happened, you know what I mean? Because a friend of mine was killed. She wasn't even a gang member, but she was killed behind some gang nonsense. And she left 2 kids and a husband behind, you know what I mean? And Lincoln High School, 15-year-old kid who enamored by just the gang culture and wasn't, you know, mentally to the point to where he can decipher the wrong and the right, and got caught up in the culture of it and lost his life at 15. You know what I mean? So this is the perspective I'm coming from, in that I want to change. I know that every gang member is not a criminal. We shouldn't criminalize just being a gang member, because you're a human being first. You know what I mean? If you want to associate with a certain set, okay, that's fine, but it doesn't mean you're a criminal. But at the younger age, it definitely puts you in a position to be more influenced by negative behavior within this type of culture. So.
Can I ask, why do you think that, you were talking about this 15-year-old who was enamored, why do you think there are some young men who are enamored by that culture?
You know, I don't know why. You know, I know what they're looking for. I know they're looking for a name. They're looking for recognition. They're looking for community. You know, they're looking to be accepted. You know what I mean? And sometimes that's the easiest way to be accepted. You know what I mean? If all I got to do is just maybe knock somebody out to get a good name and to be respected amongst my peers, and, you know, I'll do that. Where I don't feel like I'm smart enough to get good grades to be accepted. You know what I mean? So let me go do this. Or just even with sports, like I can do it on the field, so let me ball out, and you know, I can get my respect that way. So I feel like respect is a lot of it, but you know, amongst the youth culture, it's a I don't want to say it's a game, but it's almost like a sport. You know, it's almost like this is the adrenaline rush. This is what I got to do to so my name can start getting out and people can start hearing it and respecting it. You know what I mean? When I was in sixth grade, I heard a lot of the gang names, and I was kind of drawn to it. You know what I mean? I never got involved, but like Baby Green Eyes, oh shoot, he getting a lot of respect. I want to be like that, you know, or Little Leprechaun. Oh, I want a gang name. You know what I mean? It was just something fun, something cool, but I didn't really see the other side. Thank God I didn't get involved, but I could have easily. You know what I mean? But there's just like an allurement to it. You know what I mean? And for different
also
reasons.
too. Oh, I'm sorry, brother. Please leave me. Also, too, it's a terrible feeling to feel lonely. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes when you see everybody hanging out, claiming something, and you the outcast, you know, you're not down with them. It feels like, man, I want to be part of something. You know, we're imitative by nature. So, you know, that's just our nature. So sometimes when we are around a situation, when we are around people who's doing one thing, you don't want to feel like an outcast. Oh, look at him. You know, he's a nerd. Look at him. So naturally, you become attracted to that lifestyle more so because you want that brotherhood. You want that. You want to feel loved. You want to feel. You see them hanging out, giving themselves handshakes. You know what I'm saying? Whatever. Yo, what's up, blood? What's up, cuz? What's up? I'm on the, you know, to the Latin Kings, and you want to be part of that. You know what I'm saying? You like, man, I feel like a sucker just being by myself. I want to be, and that's what happens. So we become attracted to that. It's like a magnetic attraction. We want to be part of that community because we communal by nature. You know what I'm saying? We're tribal by nature. So we want to feel part of something. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes our young brothers and sisters, that, you know, they go into gangs because of that. You know, unfortunately, they don't know the you know, you see the beauty and that love on the outside, but when you go in and when you see that, sometimes it's real dangerous. You know what I'm saying? And unfortunately, we don't see the big picture. You know, and some of us are just born into it. You know, like brother said, you know, my mother was a Latin queen, so I'm a second generation Latin king. You know what I'm saying? From Chicago, my father was a 70 mortal. So naturally, it becomes part of who you are, you know? So a lot of times we drift into that lifestyle because it's all we know. Yeah. And again, sorry, forgive me for, you know.
Nah, that's what we want.
Nah, that's what we want.
Because I was going, I mean, you said everything because Brother James, I was going, is it they doing it for respect, or is they doing it for exactly what Brother Tariq was saying? I think that's a negative. You might have some that's doing it for respect, but understand that most people that are in the gang are already in it before they were in it. Right before their name was in it. Their family, their brothers, their cousins, their sisters, their uncles, their daddies, so the respect is there because it's a communal thing. I don't think none of these kids are like, oh, I need respect around here, so let me shoot somebody or beat somebody up. Like, nah, that's a negative thought. It's like I say, you might got a small percentage. Most folks, and I just, you can just see it. You're born in it, in the sense of its community. You don't have too many outsiders from Claremont coming to Lincoln Park. You don't have why, you know, it's never going to happen. Everybody that's from Lincoln Park, there's family there. Like I said, my dad was there. My mom, grandma been there since the 50s, right? So if you go to Ocean View Park, you got schools at the park, right? Baker, it's at the park. So from elementary, they got the basketball game, football game at the rec at the park where Ocean View Park is, where it all started, right? So the respect is already within the family. I think it all starts, like was saying, what Brother Tariq was saying, is you get caught up. You end up getting caught up in it, and things happen when you get caught up in it. But the initial thing of gangs wasn't to be a violent person because it was community, right? I don't need to be violent to my community. I'm not waking up in the morning talking about I'm about to go steal a car from my neighbor or shoot. You know what I mean? That never happened. There's something that happened along the line to where, you know, I'm gonna keep going to Brother Tariq. He said earlier, like, where, you know, it was a dog-eat-dog world at some one point in time where I had to get mine. And we know that comes from poverty, right? systemic racism that forces a dog, a mother dog, to kill her baby dog because there's only one bone in the backyard, right? Mm-hmm. You got projects and poverty all around, and there's nothing else to do but do what I need to do, and that survive. And I think the criminalizing of that comes from community, and I say that respectfully, but it comes from community because when they shoot the rhetoric out there, we repeat it. So repeat it to one another, then we ostracize those gang members. Right now, we don't even have our own parks to hang out at because, you know, that rhetoric around gangs is negative. So when they see all green, it's, oh, they're bad. When they see all red, it's, oh, they're bad, right? So it's that rhetoric that we're spitting out too. You know what I mean? That we're constantly saying to ourselves that it's violent, it's crazy. It's like, no, we got people at UC Santa Barbara, we got people at Berkley, we got people here, we got people doing this, we got people doing that. You know, we need to spit that out there. You know, these groups, you know, Brother Mooslot, you know, we gotta spit that out there because we know where it really came from. We know what the hearts of where gangs, we know we could do the history and where it started. We know where their hearts was at, right? Somewhere along the line, something changed, but we know where the hearts is still. That's why we're doing this work. You know, so I'm glad, Brother Trick, you shot that. I know who else. Hey, Wall, you want to say something, bro? See,
man, you know what? Yeah, you spoke a lot right there. You know what I'm saying? You know, this is it's like the way I see it, like victims of circumstance, but it all boils down to capitalism. It's as soon as we started to chase after capitalist, like the capitalist, rhetoric that they were pushing down, like go after yours, get your money. You know what I'm saying? As soon as we started to adopt the capitalist ways of being is as soon as we turned against each other. Because, you know, like one movie that I really like, and it really breaks it down, is Bastards of the Party. Bastards of the Party shows exactly what they did to divide and conquer, because it was about community. It was about protecting the community. The reason why we all came together as a community, which they labeled a gang, was to protect from, you know, the white supremacist attacks that were happening on our communities. They were coming in and lynching our people in our communities and getting away with it. The cops were then coming in and backing it up when we would get together as a community and protest this happening in our communities, and they would attack us and they would beat us, and it was to uphold law and order supposedly, but that wasn't the truth. You know, I'm doing this research brief right now, and this research brief that I'm doing, there was a part to it that I wanted to put out because it's important. I think that we need to really recognize that we're lacking credible messengers. We're lacking mentors who come from this experience, who've experienced it, who have fell into the traps of the system, because the system has a bunch of traps in our communities. One of their biggest traps is that they allow these drugs to come into our communities, and then there's no jobs, there's nothing to survive off of. So we have no other choice but to take on these drugs and create a market, because there's a market for these drugs. There's people who like to indulge in using recreational drugs, but they've made that illegal. You know what I'm saying? And if they were ever to legalize all drugs, you would see a whole decrease in the hyper criminalization, and you would see mass incarceration disappear. There's two things that we got to legalize in this country, and that's street organizations need to be decriminalized and drugs need to be decriminalized. And once that happens, we're going to see education be at the forefront of the push. We're going to see investments in universities. We're going to see investments in knowledge and knowledge production, instead of what we have right now, where they've turned us against each other and said, hey, they like red, you like blue, you guys need to go after them. And then that's across the board. They use the color to psychologically attack us. You know what I'm saying? And so yeah, I'm gonna find this quote, and I really want to get that, you know what I'm saying, out there, because it's deep, because we're victims of our circumstance, straight up.
Have you guys got the raise hand function? Or, you know, I see some people unmuting themselves. Hey, Wall, you want to say something?
Yeah, definitely. From my experience, I've noticed that hurt people are the people who hurt people, you know, people who have been hurt. So, I mean, like you said, every once in a while, or sometimes you get a person who does it, and their heart is really not in it. You know what I'm saying? Like they're just doing it for the fame or for the clout. But at the end of the day, that comes from media. So, like he said, capitalism rules the world. So, literally, white supremacy, they control everything. So, from the movies that we watched to the music that we listen to, that is all a part of a major influence. That is going to have somebody who heart is not necessarily in it and doesn't really want to do it. That's going to influence them to do it. You know what I'm saying? If like coming up, what movies did we have? We had Menace to Society. What's some of the other
Boys
ones?
in the Hood, South
Like
Central.
South
Blood
Central.
in, blood out, American Me.
Yeah, so if this is all we see, then we're gonna, you know what I mean, we're gonna repeat that, and we're gonna try to be that because we think that that's all that we can be. What we need is, like you said, somebody who has been in life, who learned from experience, to come and tell them that no, it's a better way. There's different ways. And also you have them, they took out all the trades out of all the schools and promoted, oh, go to school and get a degree, to where you got people going to get degrees and they can't even get jobs, you know? So it's systemic. That's what it all boils down to. It's systemic. So some people are doing it because they have no choice. It's like a family thing. My cousin was in it, my brother was in it, my dad. But then those people are the ones who we need to reach out to and draw them back and let them know there are other ways and other avenues. But the rest of the other people is mostly the music, media. You know, before now, recently, we didn't have control over what was put out there, you know? So we didn't have SoundCloud and YouTube where you can literally put your own. You had to go to a record label and a record company who chose what songs got placed and all that, you know? And that was a major influence, you know. Like for me, I'm a documented Lincoln Park gang member, but at the age of 6, I was outside of my grandmother's house and seen my mother get shot in the face, to where she could never see out of her left eye again, you know. So of course I had a natural hate for the people who they said did it. It took for me to go through everything to realize that me hurting people is just hurting more people. The pain that I felt, it's not right for me to make somebody else feel that way. You know, that's somebody's dad, somebody's brother, somebody's auntie, you know, and it needs to stop, you know. And like Alonzo said, like, we have to stop with this rhetoric that all gang members are bad, you know. Like, yes, I'm a documented gang member, but I go to work, I go to school, I take care of my family. You know what I mean? Like, all my kids are with me. I'm a good dad, you know, and I'm not promoting or putting on them what I've been through. You know what I'm saying? My whole thing is to make them better and to make sure that they never have to go that route or have to live that life. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
Good stuff. Thank you for sharing that, bro.
Andrea?
Yeah, because, you know, and I'm going to say this, I think I can say this because I'm a Black person. And I think sometimes we as Black people, we take too much responsibility for things, you know, because, you know, when you were talking, Alonzo, and I heard this in another seminar at the thing where people talking, you know, the switch was I wanted to get my own. And, I'm saying this, but I want you to kind of comment on what you think about this. Is the switch came when the switch I think oftentimes comes when people get to an age when they realize that the larger society is greedy and selfish, and they're getting their own, and in the process to get their own, they decided to shut us out of the process, right? And so you didn't see a way to go after and get your own as all of the larger society was doing, because the larger society shut you out. Okay, so you said, okay, I'm as much of a human as they are. They're getting their own. I need to get my own. They've shut me out of the process. Let me get my own through the process that is available to me, that the larger society made available to me. Okay? Because I do think that sometimes we as people of color take too much responsibility for what the larger society has done to us. You know, which is not about not taking responsibility for our own actions, but everybody's got to take responsibility for what they've done, and the larger society, I think, certainly has done that. So, so what are your thoughts on that?
Speaking to me or speaking to James?
Anybody? Flacco had kind of touched on that. Flacco was talking about our capitalist society and so I don't know if Flacco wants to comment.
Somebody down there 702 want to say something. Hold on, Flacco. Is that Baby Way? Go ahead, bro.
Yeah. How you doing? How you doing, man? I appreciate you inviting me on, man, real quick to just speak briefly. I think that just to elaborate and answer her question and touch on what Brother James said. How you doing, bro? This is Jordan.
Hey, what's up, bro?
How you doing, man?
I'm good, man.
Yeah, just when she was saying this larger society, gang banging at its core kind of starts early. There is so that mentality is developed in a mature individual. A mature individual is going to say the larger society is not giving me. No, when you're thinking about what's going on around you, there's a selective few individuals that's influencing you. That's the pimps, the gangsters, the brothers that's having the sacks, so on and so forth. So that is where we're being influenced by, which is, the individuals that's amongst us and doing certain things. But the connotation, the negative connotation, when James was speaking about what gangs and this, that, and the third, that only gets criminalized when it has something to do with brothers, with black men, with people of color, Mexicans as well. But to say that the gang culture is bad, the word gang was kind of, we got to go back to the old Western days, the James gang. That's who kind of, you know what I'm saying? The cowboys, those were the dudes that were saying they're gang, this, that, and the third. When one of the brothers, I guess he said he was a Light King or wherever he was, but the connotation, the negative connotation only came when we began to say that we were a gang to just fight off the police and all the rogue officers and the lynchings and the illegal ways they were dealing with us in our communities. I think that the gang element of it is doing something to us. It's definitely doing something to us. I'm kind of just befuddled because I've been listening to the conversation and now my brain is it's full. But go ahead, James. I was just going back to what you were saying, bro.
Yeah, and thank you for waving in. Jarvis is one of the guys that I grew up around, what I mean? And I saw the impact that it had on, that young generation who are not able to think through it in a more mature way because of the level that they got into it at. There was a certain way of doing it and they went at it about that way. So I get everything that you guys are saying. I agree. Somebody got to be on mute. Who is that? Thank you. So I agree with everything that you guys are saying, from the capitalism to the, it's all about getting theirs and now I got to get mine. Like I agree. Well, like I said, I'm coming from the perspective of when the young ones, they don't think in terms of how we're thinking about it. You know what I mean? They can't think past tomorrow. You know what I mean? Like they're so young and so impressionable, and they just go by what they see. And a lot of times they're giving up their freedom to be a part of this, regardless of why they're getting into it. Once they get into it at that level, you know what I mean, like a lot of them are like I said, giving up their freedom because they don't see like what, they don't know what the root of it is. They don't know what capitalism is. You know what I mean? They just see what's in front of them, and that's what they go for. And some, yeah, like you said, a lot of them are born into it. But and here's another point I want to make. A lot, we say that we're born into it, and a lot of us don't have a choice. But I gotta disagree with that because we do have a choice. I believe we do have a choice, even in communities like Southeast. I'm from Southeast San Diego. I'm from the community of Lincoln Park, but no one can ever say that I am from Lincoln Park. I grew up in a neighborhood, yeah, but you can't say that. I have a brother from Lincoln Park. You know what I mean? He's from, you know him. He's from Lincoln Park. You know what I mean? I grew up with him, but my life doesn't say that I'm from Lincoln Park. It says something different. I'm from the community, the neighborhood of Lincoln Park. But when I say Lincoln Park, and I'm not trying to like make it a negative thing, I'm just saying it is what it is.
No, hold on, James. Let me say. Let me interject briefly, just briefly. So I'm 38 years old right now. His brother, this is my brother. That's how James meet. We all family. Yeah. We all family. We've been doing this since preschool. You know what I mean? Me and Jermaine been friends. That's been my brother since we didn't have no teeth in the cops. Literally, we were children downstairs. So I'm not a documented gang member, but I've been from this community my whole life, and everybody who knows me knows the impact that I had on the community. I'm like a single-handedly, just a whole different type of individual. However, there is a choice. There's a choice. I have no family from Lincoln Park, not one in my family. My mother was a sanctified church woman. I started doing this at 12 years old. I'm 38 now. I was going to juvenile hall at 12, 13. I opened up all them Camp Barris, Campo. I did all that. And mine came from, one of the brothers said it, I didn't have mentors. I have an older brother, but he's from Lincoln Park, but he's just like James. He's not from a gang. So there's many of us in the community who don't choose to gangbang, but some of them will give you a shake. We'll talk the linguistic. We'll say the lingo, but they understand it's a difference from choosing to say, I'm a Lincoln Park gang member. When I was young, I was banging at 12, 13, fully fledged, active, doing everything you were supposed to do. And it was more of, I went to Lincoln High School, I went to O'Farrell. I'm from this community. I went to these schools, and being that young and being impressionable, I didn't know what I was doing. Really, the police kind of put me in a shell where, back then they was pulling us over, pulling out that whiteboard behind our head, taking pictures of us, documenting us, harassing us. Every time you see the police, you're running. So now you become, it's a trap. That's what the trap game, the whole trap element is. All the one-way streets, they hiding over here, pulling down. You can go over Euclid, and they back in at the church right there, ready to pull you over. Mm-hmm. They jumping out, they documenting you. These was, back then it was Pendleton and different officers that was doing these things to us that really was, pushing us in towards gangbanging. After a while, you go to these schools with these individuals, you're raised with these people. This is family. It's not just a gang. They criminalize it. That's why brothers was going to prison doing a year for hanging with their cousins who's also documented. We had Thanksgiving. I can't have Thanksgiving with my family member. No, y'all from the same gang. So the element of...
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Keep going, brother. Go ahead.
Now we got somebody's hands that are up too.
I can't hear you. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, to Brother James Wiley, that's choices, man. But sometimes we don't see the choices. Sometimes we don't see the choices. That's the problem. Like, and I don't want to make it personal, but like for myself, for instance, I'm from the South Bronx. I grew up in a different generation. I'm almost 50. So when I was growing up, I never met. This is my word to Almighty God, Allah. I ain't never met no person that ever went to. This is my word to Allah. I ain't never met nobody that ever went to college in my neighborhood, ever. So for me, college wasn't even a dream. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't even something I couldn't even think of. You know what I'm saying? So what it is, it's like if you put a mouse in a maze, as a human being, you look at the maze, you can see there's an exit, right? at the end of the maze. But for the mouse that's in it, he don't see. He's running around trying to, you know what I'm saying? He don't see the end of the tunnel. He don't see the exit. And that's many of us, you know what I'm saying? We don't see the bigger picture. All we can see is what's right in front of us. So there are choices, but sometimes those choices are not put in front of us. They're not given to us. You understand what I'm saying? So all we see is the homie down the block, you know, things like that. So that's all we know. You know what I'm saying? So there are choices, but sometimes, man, we don't see those choices. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I'm sure there was college-educated people in the Bronx, but I never seen them. You know what I'm saying? The first person I ever met that graduated from college ever was when I came out to San Diego. That was like in 99. I saw my first college grad. And now, alhamdulillah, all praises due to God. You know what I'm saying? I'm surrounded by college-educated people. You know what I'm saying? But we don't see those things when we're in that maze, in that dog-eat-dog world. You know what I'm saying? So yes, there's definitely choices, man, but sometimes we just don't see them, you know.
And I agree 100% with everything you just said, and that's one of my points. And so my point is, like, we as a community, we have to be the ones showing the younger ones that there are options, there are choices, and that's why, you know, I do what I do, because I want to let them know that, hey, there is a choice. You know what I mean? I had a choice, so you have a choice, and you may not see it, but let me help you to be able to see it. So, I'm with you 100%.
Facts. That definitely for sure.
Sister Alana,
Hey,
Sister Alana, we got Sister Alana having her hand up for a little minute, so we're gonna let her speak. Go ahead, Sister Alana.
Hello, I am a person I'm an attorney and I train prosecutors. And so I'm really trying to get some insight on how we can better work.
She froze on us. She froze on us.
That was important. She was finna say something very needable,
Right,
very important. Attorney who
I wanted
trains
to see what you
prosecutors.
was gonna say. What you got to say about the DA? What you got to say?
Go
Can I
ahead, Sister Andrea.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Sister Andrea.
Okay. No, I was just saying, again, you all are being so nice when you talk about not seeing that you had other options. You know, the options were obscured from you.
There ain't no options.
The larger society didn't let you see those options, and not only didn't let you see them, actively worked to make sure that those options were more difficult for you.
Exactly.
Expand on that. Keep expanding on that.
Because that's the thing, and you know, I mean, I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to say it's one of the reasons why I just love Black people so much. But it's just that we take on more than our share of responsibility.
Exactly.
It's our responsibility to change. Yes, it's our responsibility to do those things, but we need to call out why we don't see these things, and they're obscured from us, and those paths are diminished for us. Yes, anybody can do what they need to do to get where they want to if they put the energy into it. But we've got to call out that those pathways there are obstructions that have been put in place by the larger society that get us to go in a direction that is self-harming.
I definitely.
She's talking about the system.
No. I would definitely. The main objective to that response is fathers and Black men and men of certain stature to be mentors in our community. That's one thing. That's one of the biggest individual problems in the inner city communities and in my own community is a lot of these individuals did not have people to look at and say, hey, come on. That's why what Junior keeps saying kind of is crazy, because everything Junior is doing, he was prepped and been ready to do for years. This was something that he was supposed to do. This was his ordained design. Just knowing my bro, knowing who he is, knowing everything of his spirit, everything that he is, that's what he was designed to do. So his program, I'm paying attention to everything you're doing, bro. Not to get off the subject, but keep going. Yes, this is what you were supposed to do. However, we don't have individuals. I remember the Martin Bayless football camps. I remember the Boy Scouts. we football season. I just seen bro just posted the things, things to keep these kids. The YMCA right there, and they've been tore down for years. There's nothing that's been there. The whole gentrification of that community, it's nothing for these kids to keep their minds. They sitting on that phone, and their dopamine levels is just going nuts. They watching stuff on TikTok, social media, Instagram. I seen 15 people get killed on Instagram last week. You don't think that's affecting you?
Yeah.
It affects you. What the things that they're seeing, the dances, all this filthy music. Now we used to be outside, man, we would have bike rides, long bike rides from Southeast all the way. We're going to El Cajon City, and we moving, riding motorcycles, but that's a part of being a child. So if we can get allocate some funds towards some good programs, towards some good mentorship, keep having community work. Let's have some comedy shows. Let's have some things for them nights. I live in certain communities. I've been all over. They have different, in one of my communities I lived in Nevada, they would shut the park down and do all kind of stuff, the same stuff you're doing with the big projector screens. And, these kids need a sense of community, not a sense of fear to come outside and get bust on or get shot at a park. Or, all this, what Brother Mooslaw doing, reallocate that money from putting police on the ground to harass people, to make them become hardened and bitter and angry, and allocate that money towards something of the realms of positivity.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
Yes, sir.
So I have a question for you all, if I may.
Who are we speaking to?
Desiree?
This is Desiree. Let me turn my video on. Well, if I can. Sorry, I'm driving. So I'm one of the public defenders in San Diego County, and I've been in the juvenile court system for quite some time. And I know one of the things I've been talking to them about out there is we have specialized court. So we have like mental health court. We used to have one dealing with drugs and alcohol, our drug court. We have one now for our traffic youth, so Rise Court. And one of the things I feel like we need is a court specialized for the younger gang members. Because like someone said earlier, it might have been Alonzo, but it might have been Flocka, where you were talking about how you started at 12 and, 12, 13, you were at Camp Barrett. You did Breaking Cycles. You did CYA. You were at all of those programs. Wow. And I see it a lot with my youth because I had somebody that started.
Go ahead.
I had somebody that started at 11. Where, I had him at 11, then I had him at 12, and he's committing, petty thefts. Then it was robberies. Then it was robberies with a gun. And now he's 14, and he was involved with a robbery where somebody got killed. So now he just got sentenced to DJJ at 14. And, there's only 3 14-year-olds at DJJ because it's really too young for him. It just hardens him. But in his mind, he's just glorifying this life and this gang that he's hanging with because he really can't fully comprehend either. But what I notice is as I get these younger kids that are involved, that are on probation, I'm trying to hook them up with people like you all, lived experience experts or people that know the life, people that are older, to get them in a different frame of mind because everyone they're hanging with, it's about the money. It's about, having fun and the drugs and all the nonsense. And they don't see how doing a 10-year bid can really change their life. So how do we get them hooked up with more people like you? Or how do we get you all more hooked up with like our probation system and some of our mentorship programs so that they have somebody, they don't listen to me and I don't understand the life, but then they have somebody who actually understands where they're coming from.
Yeah, I'm so glad you bring that up, because right now I'm developing a credible messengers program. And so I'm doing a research brief, you know what I'm saying? Because that was me. At the age of 11, I was locked up, thrown in, you know what I'm saying, to juvenile hall. I was dehumanized, and I never got out until I was 32 years old. So from 11, I was my first experience, and they said that I stole my bike that my parents bought me. They threw me off it, put me in handcuffs, threw my bike in the back of the cop car and said that I stole my own bike. And my mom and dad had to come down with the receipt to the juvenile hall to give me my bike and get me out of juvenile hall. And then from that point forward, I was constantly in juvenile hall. I went to YA, I went to the camps. I never got out. I got out, I would stay out, 7, 8 months, and they would put me back in on a probation violation. So I'm writing this research brief. It's called Credible Messengers, Using Lived Experience to Mentor Promising Youth from Death Row. So there's individuals in Texas death row right now that are doing correspondence with individuals in our communities that are at promised youth, and they're writing them letters. They're doing this through the mail. But we need these types of programs where it's us, credible messengers that went through the traps of this system, the revolving door of this system, to do this. And this is transnational. This is this is going on transnationally. It ain't just the United States. It ain't just Southeast. This is happening worldwide due to capitalism. And so I want to share this quote with everyone. This is from Mumbai, India, and Obi, who actually started. Well, this program was started by Christopher Young. You can look him up. Christopher Young started this Credible Messengers program. He was killed by the state of Texas as soon as this program got a bunch of recognition, and even the son of the father who was the victim in the circumstances of what happened with Christopher Young, that gave him death sentence in Texas. Even the son came forward and said that they wanted to give clemency to Christopher Young because he had redeemed himself, and the state of Texas still took it in their hands to kill him. So I want to read this quote. This is from Mumbai, India, and it's a program over there that works with youth who are in these being locked up in these juvenile facilities. And it goes, it's been an amazing experience to see. These are kids who we call them victims of their circumstances. And that's because these are children who have come from poverty. They live in slums. The violence is so internalized that they don't even realize they're being violent. There is a lot of self-harm. There is a lot of mental health conditions. These are also children who cannot escape the system because they do not have the financial means to escape the system. So everyone who's stuck in the juvenile facility are those who are extremely poor. What I've seen is that most of these kids do not have a positive role model. They do not have social and emotional skills. They don't know how to express their feelings. They don't know how to even recognize their feelings. And so since 2012, our work has mainly been towards, one is helping children make meaning of their life, understand who they are, what their life choices are, and what is the consequences of their life choices. And at the same time, providing a lot of healing. So they say hurt people, hurt people. And that's exactly what Robinson said just a little while ago. Hurt people, hurt people. And we see that all the time where these kids, are deeply hurt for many different reasons. And then the only way for them to channel that hurt is to hurt others. And so we've been trying to create safe spaces for them to channel that hurt instead of hurting others. And so we've been trying to create these spaces to provide healing through art, music, drama, mental health support and services. And we've seen a lot of change in this time. So of course, they see that, the prefrontal cortex, this is important. The prefrontal cortex of a human being has not developed until they're 25. So that's the decision-making brain. So until 25, you're always operating from an emotional brain. And we see that like where these kids, something happened with their girlfriend and they decided to do something. Something happened with their parents and they decided to run away. So there was this constant fight, flight, freeze action that they're doing. And, it's making them land up in prison or land up in these juvenile facilities. I feel like this is from Mumbai, India. So they're experiencing the same exact stuff that we're experiencing here in the States, in the streets of LA, and in the streets all across California. Every single community is experiencing this. And so we need credible messengers because we've been dumping $15.7 billion into the Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation just in the state of California on an annual basis. And this goes up by billions every year. We just allocated another $11 million to the Department of Corrections on top of their $15.7 billion budget. So they're getting millions and billions off of us and all of the hurt that we're causing on each other. And so it's by design. They're capitalizing off of us hurting others. And then they're not allowing us to come out and be those credible messenger mentors that are needed for our communities. And instead, they're building recidivism factories in our communities. And these recidivism factories do nothing to help us but take millions of dollars away from our communities and send us right back upstate. So the revolving door of the system and recidivism that exists in our communities is by design, because they need us to go into these prisons. We were talking about how they jump out and document us. Every single time we're documented, that's money for the system. So now that's why they were doing all of that documentation on us, because they needed bodies, social security numbers. They needed those social security numbers to legitimize this $15.7 billion that's being allocated out of our state's budget tax revenue. And then when you drive down your street, all you see is houseless individuals in tents. And that's because of it. And that's what I got to say. Thank you, everyone. I love this conversation. This is deep.
Thank you for sharing, my bro.
Sergio?
Yeah, can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, so I kind of wanted to also kind of elaborate on the point that Desiree mentioned. When we one of the things that I've noticed, so I'm in the field of counseling psychology, and when it comes down to mental health, there's a lot of mental health practitioners that lack like knowledge on these type of topics, on these type of lived experiences. And anytime, you know, in my experience, when I've talked with colleagues, when I've gone to conferences, and we bring up the topics of like, you know, plain and simple, just incarceration, look at people who are incarcerated as a like very homogeneous group, that they have all the same lived experiences. But as most of you on this call may already know, it's like if you're incarcerated in the state of California, the way that politics dominate that institution and the streets, their lived experiences are going to be completely different. The same way where currently I'm in Indiana, this is where I'm doing my studies. If I work with someone who's in the county jail out here in Carroll County or Tippecanoe County, it's going to be completely different. And so one of the things that I noticed is that they always approach people who are incarcerated, or if there are, you know, documented gang members, as through this like very deficit approach.
We can't hear you.
All right. Hear me now?
Yeah, good.
Yes, sir.
All right. So let me just take off the headphones. So what I was saying is that oftentimes a lot of practitioners who are in the mental health field, they take on this like, you know, saver mentality, that if you come from the streets or if you come from the hood, you need to be saved and whatnot. And they focus on, you know, strictly the negative, where they often overlook the strengths that a lot of folks have that they could utilize, you know, to heal. And so, you know, simple things like if you think about the people who basically organize the hunger strikes, that in itself, in order for folks who have organized across the state such a, you know, huge initiative, like that took a lot of, you know, positive qualities, attributes that people often overlook. And so kind of like what Desiree was mentioning about, you know, having folks who may be, you know, still documented gang members and wanted to go talk to the folks. I strongly believe that people from that same community need to also like even enter the field of mental health to be able to, you know, approach, you know, the healing in a more, you know, like positive way, rather than this like deficit or pathological view where unfortunately they're causing more harm than, you know, actually good.
Thank you for that, Sergio. So I'm assuming this ends at 2:15. I don't know if like it's going to be cut off at that time. I don't know how this is
Cut it
going
off
to
when
work.
we cut it off.
Okay, so yeah, I don't. Okay, all right, keep going.
Anybody got any questions? Anybody got any questions?
You know, one thing I want to throw out there too is that they always try to strip us of our cultures, you know. And one thing about, you know, a credible messenger is, you know, in order to work in the reentry sector, you have to identify as a former gang member. Like, and they always make you do that. Like, if you want to work in that field, like if you want to work with juveniles, you got to identify as a former gang member. You got to say former. Like, I'm not a gang member because I called myself a gang member. I'm a gang member because the state put that title on me. You know what I'm saying? I'm Flaco from Montebello. I love my neighborhood. I love my community. You know what I'm saying? The state put that label on me as being and documented me as a gang member when they jumped out the car when I was 11 years old, threw me in the back and said that I was from Montebello, and documented me as a gang member and put me in the injunction and all the gang injunctions that they were doing to, to our neighborhoods. And so, we were talking about choices earlier about, these choices. One thing that I see is we don't have a choice. When you got the gang injunction on your neighborhood and you live there, everyone in that neighborhood is criminalized. Everyone is criminalized in that neighborhood. There's no choice. You go hang out in the park and play baseball. Don't matter if you're 5 years old. If you're playing baseball in a neighborhood that has the gang injunction on it, and your dad happens to be one of those individuals that got documented, now you're getting pitched the ball by your dad, you're now being documented. You know what I'm saying? So we have to be mindful of all these different attacks that the system uses in order to legitimize this money that they're extracting away from us. And so, I just wanted to really emphasize that it's all about money with this system, and it's all about shedding our culture. And so we can't fall into eliminating our culture. This is the same things they were doing to the natives. They were saying that their culture was pagan. You know what I'm saying? And this is what they've done throughout the history of the evolvement of this world. You know what I'm saying? When humans came to evolve in this world, they always say that culture is bad, this culture is good. And then that's not the case. You know what I'm saying? So, today, document, I'm a proud gang member. I'll never identify as a former gang member. I'm gang banging in a new way. Instead of gang banging on my homies and gang banging on my people, I'm gang banging on this system that has divided and conquered us and turned us against each other in order to capitalize off us, and turned all of us into a commodity. We're all commodities to this system. And so we need to really come together as one and quit shedding our culture and saying former this, former that, because that's not the case. Today, you know what I'm saying? If you're living in a neighborhood that has the gang injunction on it, you are a gang member from that neighborhood, and proudly represent that neighborhood and love that neighborhood. If you own property there, you proudly represent that neighborhood until it all disappears, because, there is no bad and good. It's just we're all human beings and we need to be treated as such.
Yeah, and Flaco, I'm glad you said that too, right? Because even when it comes to the choices, like James, you was just lucky. You was like one of the very small few of the whole world that didn't get documented and didn't get, harassed or beat up or handcuffed or any of that. You know what I mean? That's a small 0%. Like Flaco was saying, going to the park, that's how it happens. Walking down the street, that's how it happens. Going to school, that's how it happens. Coming from football practice, that's how it happens. You were just one of the lucky ones, right? Being put in handcuffs at 10, 11 years old, 12 years old, like Jarvis was saying with the screen and all of that, you're already being processed for that. That is your process. We're giving you your process because we know what we're finna do to you. So here goes your process. And while processing you, you will be caught up, because the system designed for you to get caught up. It's a small percentage of Aaron Harveys and Alonzo Harveys and Flacos that's out here. That is like that big. The chances that happen is zero. The chances of anybody else going to Berkley and all of that is zero. But the chance of getting documented, because of the way these laws in society and the way the system has created it, and also the rhetorics, which means the community votes in on it, because of the rhetoric is being told, our kids is up against it. So the choice is really zero. Like my boy said, he walked outside, his mom was shot. That's the environment we grow up in, right? That's what we see. The system is designed to keep you where you're at, so you can see what you only can see. Like you're saying, the mouse. We're gonna keep you at that mouse. You're never gonna be the person above that, because we got AB 333 we're trying to fight, right? All these gang enhancements and gang policies and these gang laws and this. Why did they create these gang laws, right? To keep these young Black folks locked up, because they know what that brings, right? We don't have a choice. The criteria, I got 5'9" brims tatted on me. Where's that gonna go? That's not gonna go anywhere. So now I have to do 20, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 years in life in prison because of a tattoo? or because of a park that I hang out at, or because of a color that that's not by choice. I grew up that Lincoln High School was right there and it's green, right? So I think when you say choice, just understand those that had a choice, you're not going to meet that many, because the stories is going to change. If you ask a lot of folks, you'll be able to begin to see how family orientated it really is. Grandpas, right? Grandmas. I don't think they was around here doing anything violent. We love those grandmas and grandpas and moms and dads that lived in those neighborhoods, in those places. I think it's just what we have to do as a community. Yeah, Miss Alana, we're gonna get to you too. What we have to do as a community, I think, is this rhetoric, because I think we had enough stories in here to see and hear, the positive things that are coming about, right? Or that have been came about, and why violence even happens within the gangs, right? It's a word that's created. It's something that's made up. We didn't say that, right? We just adopted it. I think as a community, what we have to do is create ways, right? Create resources. We have to make sacrifices. I know my father used to take people in, right? That was just what he did. My grandma used to take people in. If it's that, I think if we take measures like that, find resources for Brother James, right? Who's doing real teams, right? We need folks to allocate and find money for folks that are around here willing to make sacrifices for the youth. But Sister Alana, I want to hear from you. I know you got kicked off.
Oh, you know what? Everybody is just dropping gems, and I'm just so appreciative. Really quickly, I train prosecutors in reform and looking at things in a different way. So really the only thing I just want to ask, if anybody is willing to just share some of the information that they shared in like a training that I can plan for maybe the beginning of the year, please just drop your information in the chat, because
Can you drop yours in the chat?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I'll tell you right now, I work for the Prosecutors Alliance of California. So it's Alana at prosecutorsalliance.org, but I'm going to drop it in the chat because people need to hear this, because they're only hearing it from maybe, old-minded supervisors or, some of these gang detectives. So I think this is very, very powerful. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. And we appreciate the fact, because there's some brothers in here that I know that I would love to, hopefully they reach out to you, because that's an impactful position that you're at, right? That's the whole point of us coming together, so we can make change, and that's how you make change, especially in the position where you train prosecutors. And I think once we humanize the word gang member, right? Once we humanize the color, I think change, we wouldn't have to be worrying about trying to pass AB 3333, right? Change all these gang laws and all of that. So I definitely appreciate.
And I will also add, I'm not only training prosecutors, but I'm running to be the top prosecutor in Sacramento County. So it's even more power to bring truth and restoration.
Oh yeah, put that in the chat, please, please, please.
Yeah. What did she say it was again? Alana.
She's gonna put it in the chat. I'm gonna get it to you, bro.
Okay. Please do. Yeah, please do. I would definitely like to reach out to
her. Is there anybody else who has any questions? I know we got about 10 minutes left. I don't know if anybody had anything to say.
That was the young lady who spoke about the young 14-year-old that was in juvenile hall and all that? That was her? Prosecutor was that her?
No, that's a public defender.
Yeah, that was Desiree.
Okay. Is she still online?
She's still on here.
Say it again.
I'm still here.
Yes. This is me. I have one thing that my skin had definitely started jumping when you spoke about that young brother. I did break in cycles. Now I'm down near 40 years old. I did 30-day stop. I did every program in juvenile hall, Campo, Barrett, and I kind of opted out when they gave me a 90-day observation and for getting 881 from Barrett when I was about 17 years old, and I had got 881 and they was gonna send me to the YA, so I aged out. However, they sent me to from Unit 800 in juvenile hall to George Bailey, and that was a different wake-up call. What you should do, what I suggest you do with that young brother, is really find somewhere that this is what I, putting myself in his shoes right now. I was 12 years old doing 30-day stop with Brandon Duncan. That was the only time they mentioned that he would ever incarcerate when he was back then. He needs credible individuals. He needs individuals in his life who can just get on his level. Like you said, some of these people, the court system is designed to lose him because, again, let's be frank, the system, it makes money. It's a monster. That's why it's called the system. It's a system that makes money from the incarceration and of these young children, of these young men. But a lot of them don't have the issues. They just don't have people that say, hey, I'm coming to get some ice cream with you. I'm coming to take you to play some catch. What you want to do with your life, and just talk to these young brothers and get a good understanding of what you're dealing with. A lot of them do need some form of counseling when it comes to just cognitive dissonance and learning how to deal with their emotion. And we're dealing with a whole nother generation. This was in the 90s and the early 2000s when I was coming up and going through this stuff. So I still remember my probation officer, her name was Sakura Archuleta. And what she did, she had a partner that was a brother, and they would come to my house. My mother was she was my probation officer. So she understood the foundation of what I was raised up. A lot of these people are just looking at you as a number, as some boots on the ground, as a little kid who's in the system. No, you have to find out the foundation. His mother got a bunch of kids with no dad around. Was she listening to all this nasty music and got him saying X, Y, and Z? How did he get in this position? And just really love on these little brothers, because they just need people to get to that level with them and can say, I've been through it. I hear you and I understand, until you can get them to that next stage. But it's not rocket science. They're just hearing it from people who they know that don't relate to them. But that was all I had to say.
Appreciate you, brother, man, for sharing that too, man. It was like immediate words that more the community need to hear too, of folks that's still around doing positive things that really went through all of that. So we appreciate that, man. Sister April.
All right, brother.
Hi, everybody. I just want to say, first of all, Alonzo and James, thank you guys for being willing vessels to have these types of conversations on such a broad level with everybody. Just being a community organization, I agree with the young brother that just spoke. One of the biggest things that I find that's a major gap is just from an organization standpoint, a lot of people don't get to the core level of the root cause of why our young people are so involved in so-called structures of gangs. And they are just looking for personable, relatable factors of where they have gaps in their own lives. Like you said, if they lack a father, they lack a mother. And it's not just young brothers, there's young sisters out here who banging just as hard as some of these young men. And they're looking for that void to be filled. And they don't want show. They want authentic people who are going to give them a real essence of what they're lacking. And so I just love that you find real relatable people that are willing to give time, energy, effort, and commit themselves on a daily basis to that. These lives will be changed, and we're changing the narrative of how family can be relatable to the sense of the word gang versus the negative aspect that's thrown out from other people that have no relation or no correlation with even how the gangs are formulated in the communities and why they're formulated in the communities. And that's all that I wanted to say.
Man. Andrea?
Oh, well, I wanted to say bye to Flacco. But one thing I think might address a little bit of what Desiree was talking about, that we've talked about in other sessions, is that it's not going through government programs that seems to give a lot of people the best help. Government programs are structured in a particular way that really often doesn't address the needs of our community.
Mm-hmm.
People who, as Flacco and others, it's the credible messengers that can help. And as Taco was talking about in another thing, the very people who can do the best work are the people that don't get the funding. You know, the organizations that where you have people getting paid $30,000 a year who can really do the work, they're not getting the money to do the real work. Okay. Instead, we're having probation officers who again, I have nothing against probation officers, but they just can't get the results that the intervention workers can get. And that's the biggest problem. So, because I kind of heard in Desiree what you were saying, well, my client has been through all these programs and they don't seem to have helped him. They're not going to help him. Those government programs, those social services, they are not going to help him. They're at their essence not truly designed to help, no matter the good intentions that people have when they're there. So
it sounds like, Sister Andrea, excuse me, you're saying we need community-led organizations that are not attached to government in a way of folks that are boots on the ground, living in the community, live next door, know that kid because she done whooped the kid. They need money, right? They need resources. We need more money. Brother James needs more money. He's a community, one person with a community behind them, but they need money, right? To foster these youth. He's fostering youth, he just doesn't have the mansion to foster them like he would like to, right? He's taking in young brothers who are afraid to go home because of the situation that they live in, right? But I bet if they invested in this kid and there were streetlights and his situation, his mother's situation was better, they wouldn't have to worry about being scared to go home, right? But see, they put that negative, oh, he's scared to go home because of this. No, he's scared to go home because of the situation that he's living in. That's why he's scared to go home. I can't go to James because James closes at 5. You don't got enough money to foster me, right? We don't have boys and girls clubs. Jackie Robinson, they tore that down to build a gym, right? We used to be able to walk through that. That was monumental for us, right? The YWCA, that's monumental. Right, they're doing nothing but trying to build sports complex instead of building resources and solutions for these young men to get up and go to work. $15 an hour at 16, they can afford that. And if 16-year-old was making $15 an hour, I can almost guarantee you a lot of the stuff would stop happening because I have. What else do you think I ain't about to not go get my $15 an hour? No, that's gonna happen, right? We don't always have to push. The alternative of college, because college wastes a lot of time, right? You don't feed bellies. College don't feed bellies. College don't give you enough support. You don't have enough resources in college. As a Black man, that's not logic, right? When I wake up in the morning, it doesn't happen. So if you gave me a trade or if you gave me a 15-hour job instead of a law, right, that's locking me up for hanging out at the park with the homie, then I wouldn't have time to hang out all day because now I got a job or a community a place, not the Jacob Center, where we can't go hang out at because there's nothing to do, right? That's not community funded. We don't have our own Jacob Center, right? We don't have none of that in our community, right? We're so focused on the negative, but we know what the positive do because we got people that's willing to do it, out of their pocket. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, man, that system is crazy, man. That system is crazy. I feel like, we all, a lot of us touched on that. I appreciate you, Andrea, for even bringing up the system and how we got to stop really being hard on ourselves and understand what's handed to us, right? What's in front of us, and the choices that we are making are based on circumstance and situations. And it's hard for us. And a lot of us, some of us do, and that comes from prayers and supportive families and moms and dads being in the house. And hopefully that generation trickles that down. But we know that's not happening in our communities, right? There is colors, there is guns, there is drugs, there is money. But that's just the choice that's laid out, and some of us just make it out. So I appreciate everybody for coming, man. This was dope, and I think we need to have more of this. I don't know how we're gonna do it, but I know it's coming. It's coming soon. Brother James, man, I love you, bro, man. This is, we said we're gonna keep doing this, man. We got me and Brother James got some work coming, man, with the youth. Yeah. Man, real soon. Yeah. We're gonna have them come holler at us real soon. Man. So appreciate y'all.
Stay tuned. Appreciate you, bro. Great job, Alonzo. Thank you guys all for joining in with us and for adding to the conversation. I learned a lot just from you guys. So